A darkness covered the earth, and it seemed like the end of Mother Church. Then a light appeared in the darkness.
Hello, family, and welcome. We're Bob and Penny Lord. Today we want to share with you one of the greatest of our super saints, Dominic, the founder of the Dominican order.
Our story takes us to Spain, a Christian part of Spain, freed from more than 400 years of cruel domination. The small, sleepy village of Calaruega, resting unnoticed between the lofty cities of Burgos and Segovia, will bring the world a treasury of saints. If we travel back in time, we can see turrets and ramparts majestically dominating the horizon, proudly announcing the nobility who dwell within. Our story is about the saint, Dominic. In 1170, he was born into the nobility of this world. He and his family predestined to be part of that nobility, but instead, that nobility would produce souls who would spend their life journeying toward eternal life with the nobility in heaven.
Before Dominic was born, his mother Juana had a prophetic vision of a dog carrying a lit torch in his mouth, igniting everything in his path as he sped throughout the world. She was confused and troubled by the vision and went to pray at the shrine of Santo Domingo de Silos, after whom she later named Dominic. This is how we often see images of Saint Dominic, accompanied by a dog with a lit torch in his mouth.
God, with his eyes on those he has chosen, placed our future saint into a home filled with virtue and piety. His mother praying with her children, bringing them closer to God and his will for them. It will not come as a shock, therefore, when her child Dominic chooses the path to holiness and sainthood. The only problem is that before Dominic was born, his two older brothers were already preparing for the priesthood. The estate and the father's responsibilities passed to the only son left, Dominic.
What did his mother Juana do? Knowing in her heart that this child too belonged to God, she sent Dominic at age 7 to her brother, who just happened to be a priest. Dominic studied under his uncle, learned how to serve as an altar boy, was made proficient in Latin, and learned the tenets of our faith. Dominic had a thirst for knowledge, which he would pass on to future preachers who would follow. He was charismatic and filled with compassion for those starving, not only from lack of food, but the Word of God. This passion for God and his children would draw many young men and women to him in the days ahead. His life, filled with days and nights of peaceful but exciting pursuits of holiness, was to come to full fruition the day Dominic was ordained to the priesthood in around 1195.
Now 25 years old, Dominic realized his walk was not as a secular priest, but as a religious. So after he was ordained a priest, Dominic was vested in the habit of the canons regular of Asma, made his profession to that order, and for the next 9 years faithfully followed the rule of St. Augustine. Don Diego, Bishop of Asma, chose him to accompany him on a mission to Denmark, which would be the first leg of a long journey of suffering, pain, and torment. As they traveled through southern France, Dominic's heart felt like it would bleed to death as he encountered the enormous suffering brought about by a new threat against the Church and her children, the Albigensian heresy. This heresy denied the sacraments, especially marriage and the Eucharist, promoted sexual promiscuity, and were vegetarians. The churches were empty, the bells no longer tolled. Sunday you could see people working in the fields. There was a funereal spirit over the villages, as if God himself was mourning over the death of his children's souls. They were like men, women, and children walking in their sleep through a dark cloud, shutting out all sun.
Their mission was successfully completed in Denmark, but God had a greater plan in mind. Seeing the death of the faith overtaking the world, before they returned to Spain, the bishop and Dominic stopped in Rome.
The bishop and Dominic asked Pope Innocent II for permission to go to evangelize Russia, and the Pope refused. They stopped at the Abbey of Citeaux and with the idea of becoming Cistercians, then decided against it as the bishop realized his first responsibility was to the diocese that had been entrusted to him. They had desired to live among the Cistercians. That was not to be. Eager to serve God and church, but not knowing how it would come to pass, they resignedly turned their eyes toward Spain, believing that God's will lay in their obedience to the Pope.